Caralyn Mirand Koch here, your host for Voices, the Conversation Continues. Today, we're talking all about success. I am very excited and honored to be joined by plus-size fashion model, television personality, body positivity advocate, and mother, Denise Bidot, and entrepreneur, digital influencer, body acceptance advocate, and founder of Megababe, Katie Sturino. Thank you both so much for joining us today. Let's get started. So selfishly, I have to say I am fangirling very hard today because when I started my career, the two of you were my idols and icons. So the fact that this has like really come full circle and we're able to take a deep dive into success today is a dream come true to not go on too much further. So thank you both for agreeing and accepting to do this with me today. All right, so we're here to talk about success. My question for you both is, do you feel successful today? Would you call yourself a success? Do you think you are successful?
I think this is a really interesting thing because I talk about this a lot in my own life. And I think while I do feel successful, it's just really easy to keep looking forward and not recognize what you've done and like kind of rush through that because you got to get to the next like thing. And I've been really challenged with that and trying to like figure out what that really means to me and what I really need to like sustain that, because you can't do that forever. You cannot keep going like that forever.
I struggle with that.
Yeah.
I'm actually really happy you said that.
Yeah. And Denise, I think it's the same thing that when you just said you like, how long can you talk about stretch marks? You can talk about stretch marks forever, but eventually the conversation does need to evolve. And that is where I feel I am, like I'm at now. And we have like a next generation of women coming up on TikTok who are like in this space and like they've got their own spin on things. And I feel like we're in a very big change in this conversation. Like I feel like new things are coming and that feels uncomfortable and it also feels good.
Well, I mean, just kind of piggybacking off of that. Yeah, I guess I see it really clearly because of my daughter and her friend, right? So like that TikTok generation that you're talking about, think about it. I've been doing this now for 12 years. 2006, right, is when I like officially started. We're in 2021. It's been a while. Yeah, it's been a minute. Somewhere the math gets shady. I like leave it at 10, 12 years just because it feels right. But I'm realizing now someone calculating over there might know that it's longer, and that's okay. But when you think about the fact that her entire life has been inundated and flooded with body positivity and self-love, you can't help but have molded a different type of human. So when we see these 13, 14-year-olds now on TikTok, they don't want to hear the same conversation because they don't even think there's something wrong with them. You know what I mean? They've grown up completely empowered, understanding, seeing themselves, visualizing their dreams, knowing that the access to their success is at their fingertips. So you don't have to keep shoving it down their throats. They are fully aware of their power and their potential. And so they're moving differently. They talk differently. They see things differently. And, you know, we have that world that we're working towards continuing to move into our space so that they can bring whatever knowledge they have, because it's going to be awesome whatever they bring. But then you have the people who still don't get it, right? And so we sit somewhere in this middle of like having seen the change and been a part of the change, but we have to also understand that there are two completely polar opposite sides living, you know, the women who will never understand why we need this and we hope we can get to them, and the girls who are like, shut up already, we've already heard this, we know nothing else. And so it's going to be cool to see how this transitional wave happens. I just feel like we just have to keep growing and keep being smart and knowing that the women, you know, that we are women and that one day we're going to feel great and one day we're not going to feel great, and that's normal. And just keep moving forward, just keep it going.
So interesting, because I guess I've never really thought about it as like we're kind of that in between, as in like there's a whole, I've never even thought about that, but there's a whole generation growing up with all this body positivity.
You know, it's been going on so much longer than a decade, but people don't realize those kids are now teenagers.
Wow.
Yeah, that's interesting. And then you're right though, Denise, is that we've been in the conversation for so long, and you still have a whole world of people who are never or not going to get it or haven't even cracked into the message.
Yeah.
So it's like you may feel fatigued by the message, but the message is still needed. It's very interesting.
There's a whole world out there, ladies. We
Yeah.
represent, I think, on the progressive side, you know, what's true to us. And I think that always is going to be the right way. And again, everyone is allowed to feel however they feel, but we have to recognize that those young girls also are deserving of like what comes next. And so we got to continue to figure that out with them.
That's so true. Do you feel successful? I know Katie started it off, but
Oh yeah. No, I mean, I guess I was like, when you said that, I was like, yeah. Cause I feel like for me, my success has never been a dollar amount. Right. And I think my success was in 2006 when I told myself that I was worth more. When I had my daughter in 2008 and I told myself, I don't want to be a statistic. I want to prove to the world that just because I'm a single Latina mother, that I'm not going to be, you know, I'm not going to be repeating my mother's footsteps. I'm going to be successful and I'm going to reach my dreams, and this isn't going to limit me. And so, you know, she's 13 years old now. I did that, but I did that for me the moment that I quit that day job, the moment that I took that leap of faith, that I said, you know what, I'm going to try this, and I'm going to try this, not just for me, but for her. And so, like, again, you know, goals continue to change. Yes. Success lives in my heart. That is the kid. That's never going to change.
That's beautiful. With that, do you feel content? Or I guess I personally am very afraid of ever feeling complacent or content, because especially in this industry, it's ever evolving, it's ever changing. You constantly have to be on your toes. As soon as you figure it out, something changes, the algorithm changes something. So I guess for me personally, where I'm at in my journey is, as you said, Katie, you know, we're constantly on the next thing, but like at what point do you stop? Do your goal shift? I mean, like what should be my, like, what's the end goal, right? Like
there's no, that's the thing, is I think that's something that we're all figuring. I guess, I don't know, I'll speak for myself. I am figuring it out, and I'm figuring that what they really mean by that bumper sticker phrase about how it's all a journey. Mm-hmm. It really is a journey. We're never there.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't think that we ever do reach that. And that's why I just keep kind of going back to like flowing, you know, and like evolving and allowing the world to kind of guide you in different ways. Because I think the more in my journey, for instance, the more that I've had very specific etched out wants and goals, the more those don't actually end up the way that I want them. And so I've learned in my experience that I just have to go with it and roll with it. And our industry is crazy, right? And there's going to be things that I want that I'm never going to reach, and things that I didn't even know I wanted that come to my way that I'm like, wow, I didn't know how much I needed this. And so, yeah, it can be, if you choose to take everything, you're going to, you know, work yourself to the bone. And there's that. I love that I've been seeing a lot of people talking lately about how the goal is not to like just work nonstop. You have to have balance. And I'm grateful in the sense that I always had a kid, so I had no choice but to find balance, you know, and to like, you know, there were so many projects that I would have loved to take on, but I couldn't find a babysitter, or I couldn't do it, or my kid had to play, or there was some thing that I couldn't make it work, and I always chose her. So like for me, that was never the question. But I do have to say that with the last year of COVID, I found myself doing things that I never would have done before, that I didn't know I like enjoyed. And so I think I missed that, right? Like I always knew the home and the work, right? Like those were cool, but I didn't know the me. You know what I mean? Like the girl who, when she's not working, what does she do? Because when I wasn't working, I was a mom. Right. And so I hadn't found time to like have her good and work kind of just being in a place where I was like, okay, what do you do now? What do you want to do? Like, what do you like? And I was like, oh my God, I like baking. I like painting. I like, you know, doing all sorts of random things. And I think that those are so essential to like the rounding of your mental health that people don't realize, you know, because I had worked, and work fulfilled me and made me super happy. And the kid, awesome, super happy, love. But like, then I found myself in this like gray area over quarantine. I was just like, okay, what do you like? Who are you? I felt like the runaway bride. I was like, how do you fucking like your eggs? Like, what do you, and that reference might go way over your head, Caralyn. I don't know how young you are, but I felt like I was just trying to figure out who I was, apart from the activist and the model and the mom, you know, like, who are you when all push comes to us? Yeah. And I think that that's what we all need to find. I think we all deserve that space, and at least one day out of the week where we just give to us. And self-care is beautiful, and massages and that, but like when you take all that away, like, and you sit in silence, like, what do you want to do? And I think everyone should find that.
Like stripping back those titles, those accomplishments, all that. Like,
Yeah,
who
because no matter how many jobs, you could work 7 days a week, and when that 8th day comes, you can still be bored as hell. And so, or just don't even know who you are, and you just feel lost. And I think there's no money number that makes you feel fulfilled or happy or balanced.
That's so true. So do either of you have any, like for me, I have some very vivid, pivotal moments that I guess you could call setbacks that shaped you, or things that you had to overcome that essentially made you better, made you stronger. Anything in that off the top of your head that you can think of that was a pivotal moment for you?
I don't know if it's a pivotal moment necessarily, like one thing. It's more that throughout my entire career on social media, I have been kind of told no, like that's not going to work. This is not a good idea. And that has, I think, like almost everything I've ever done, like I have people telling me no. So,
So no means yes.
I guess no means yes. And I feel like you just have to get used to having people who mean a lot to you, or people who you think are smart or successful, telling you what your idea is not great. And then you have to decide if you believe in it.
I second that as well. That's why I love you. I think, yeah, for me, again, I totally agree with what Katie just said. Every single time someone told me no, it just made me work that much harder. It goes back to self-worth and acknowledging and knowing, like from your core, not because someone else told you, but from like deep down knowing you're worth it, and you can't get that from any outside source. That comes solely from your mind and from your heart and your spirit, and being like, no, girl, like you told me no, and I'm going to go out there and I'm going to prove you wrong, not for you, but for me. And I think that, there's been so many times, so many campaigns I didn't get, so many projects I would have loved to work on. It's never ending. There's, like I said, there's been a million no's that have launch pad me into like a yes, into a beautiful yes, and not even realizing I even missed the no. But you got to get them all, and you got to love them all.
So one of my questions is actually, has anyone ever said no to you, and what did you do? So I feel like that's a perfect segue.
We said yes. We were like, how about no?
I say, I deal with it the way I deal with any confrontation, which is just to nod and smile and then do whatever I want.
Facts, that works.
Would you call it like a gut feeling, like something you just like know in your heart or your gut that needs to happen, or you have those blinders on and you're like, you're hearing no, or you're hearing what that path, you don't really know what it's going to look like?
I knew that I wanted to start a platform to help women who were bigger get dressed and help them source clothes. And this was in 2014. And I was told by a very large digital influencer agency that it was a bad idea and I would never make money and it was too crowded. And I was like, there's like no one in there. And I'm saying, like, to be told by someone at that level with that much power that it's a bad idea, I really had to believe in my gut feeling, right?
100%. I wonder where they are these days.
I know where they are.
I remember vividly sitting with two people when I was making the decision to move from LA to New York. And at the time I had already been plus size modeling. I'd been, I had campaigns in store. Like I felt like I was doing good, and I was like, oh, well, the New York girls just get this different level of respect. And I want to target that world. And I want to just have my foot in like the game, and I remember the girl sitting me down and being like, you're doing so good in LA, but I just don't think you should move to New York. You're short. I'm 5'7" and I'm a size like 12, 14. And at the time I was like a 14, 16. And I remember her being like, the girls that work in New York are tall and skinnier. They're like the 5'11s, size 12s that make the most runs in the city. And I was like, okay, girl, like while that may be true now, that doesn't have to continue to be true. And I remember just being like, I remember sitting at home being like, am I about to listen to these two girls who probably knew a lot because they weren't wrong? That was generally the market in the New York space. But I just felt like that just wasn't what I was feeling like I needed to do. Like it wasn't for the market. It was for me. Like I was like, no, I want to like check off New York City model. And I remember going and like being so scared that like they were going to be right. You know, like I was like, oh God, but I'm doing this. I'm going to New York. My short, fat ass is going to New York and I'm going to give this industry a whole spin for it, you know? And to think that I would be the one to kind of really launch into like the New York Fashion Week space and to do all the runway shows and to like solidify that for the curvy girl at my short 5'7", size 14 butt really made me feel good. Like I remember walking down that runway thinking, yeah, they were wrong. I got this.
And they were really wrong.
They were wrong. New York did okay. I did okay in New York.
You did great. Yeah. New York. Yeah. Denise, also, did they not see your face? Like what?
But you know what though? Like I love you so much. You're so sweet, but we know that things only go as far as you let them go. So like for them, they couldn't wrap their heads around change.
Yes. Yeah,
they
that's
couldn't.
True.
You know, and here we were, and I was like, no, you know, like I remember so many times being at castings next to girls who were so much taller and everyone always trying to lie about my height. And I was like, I just feel like I can be me. Like I'm short. Like that's just what it is. Like if you think, like I remember specifically standing at a casting with a girl who was well over 6 feet tall and her card said 5'11", and my card, her card says 5'11", mine says 5'9". So in theory, we should be 2 inches apart. Now I'm 5'7" and she's about 6'1", 6'2". We're standing next to each other like this. And I can see the casting person with both of our cards being like, yeah, these girls are liars. And I remember just feeling like it was so dumb. Like why, what part of me is not acceptable as it is? Like, why do we need to continue this like perfect box of what a girl needs to fit into to be a model? And like, I'm so like, I see it now and it's not that way. And it's so refreshing, but it is wild the amount of times that we had to deal with that sort of level of pressure that was unnecessary.
Katie, do you feel any of that? Like, do you think that you've obviously seen a lot from a different side?
Well, what's so funny is that I always wanted to be a model my whole life. And I used to go to open calls at like Ford Plus or Wilhelmina Plus. I used to go when I was in my early 20s and they were just like, no. And I had the height. I don't know. I didn't have the moves. I didn't have the face. I just didn't have the thing that you needed. And it's so funny that that early life dream ended up kind of coming true later. And I did get to do some modeling and I guess you could consider some of the stuff I do modeling, but, I'm not I don't love it. Like, I'm not like, I don't know. So it's interesting. The thing that you wish for, sometimes you get, and you're like, okay, you're like, maybe there's a reason you didn't get it.
Absolutely. I don't know if either of you have experienced this, but me coming from the modeling industry and kind of phasing into the content creator influencing space, treated very differently as a model versus as being hired as Caralyn Mirand to post and share. I don't know.
What do you mean?
Absolutely.
So I feel like, you know, when I was hired as a model, I was hired as a size 14 body to show up and do the job versus, you know, being hired as Caralyn, being hired as my voice, my thoughts, my opinions, and the community.
A human.
Built.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that like the care, and I think there's a level of even respect that is just on different playing field. I saw Denise, you were shaking your head.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with that. I think it's interesting because the whole influencer world kind of really picked up while I was really at a successful place in modeling, where both of those things kind of simultaneously happened for me, where like my name started becoming a more recognizable name, and the like social media side started doing that as well. So I feel like they both kind of went like this for me. But I did see so many times where girls who I was working with were outshined or out selected, you know, not selected because someone had more followers or more presence socially. And it became something that I don't think girls who were just modeling realized was happening. And it was like one of those things where they think they're making all this money and they're doing these jobs and your face is there, but your name is not there. And I remember having conversations with my agency where we started negotiating the name being attached to the project as a whole. Right.
Yeah.
And products that were like, okay, well, if this is going to go out, it needs to say Denise Bidot underneath, even if you are hiring me as a model, because I think that for so long, a model was just a model. We were just told to be quiet. Nobody wanted to hear your opinion. It was like, no, you're pretty, just shut up and put on the clothes. And it was such a disservice to us as women because we have so much more to speak on. Even when I was doing the little modeling jobs back in the day, like I was very much in the background with the buyers being like, hey, we deserve a high-waisted bikini. Hey, why we don't really like these colors. Hey, can you try this? And like, it was in those conversations as Denise Bidot that the brand started to change and evolve. So like, we're never just a face. We're never just a body. We just have to understand that we have so much more value to us and more power and know how to utilize that. And I think that the girls who started using social media without modeling understood that power kind of a bit quicker. And so they were, numbers, followers, conversations started evolving, and they were then put into kind of our space. Like it was just like bundled. There wasn't like a moment where people were like, oh no, well, plus size models, activists, it makes sense together. And so it's definitely a different approach when I show up booked as Denise Bidot, but I don't know that I've seen that change. Like they've been kind of one and the same for so long now that I've only noticed it greatly from other people and being like, wow, you really treated so-and-so not great.
Yeah.
And then I saw you go and kiss ass over here because so-and-so had so much more followers, and it sucks.
Yeah.
But I think that there are a lot of, agencies that don't help these girls become more than just a model. And I think that it's a shame because that is what these girls need and deserve, is to go out there and speak and show themselves. And, I even remember at one point when social media started, like an agency being like, no, you can't post this or you can't do that because you don't want to offend clients or do this. And and I never listened because I don't give a crap, because at that point I was like, I know what I'm doing and I don't think you get it. And I remember those same things that they told me not to do were exactly the things that I would then come to a job and a client would be like, oh my God, we loved when you did this or that, or posted this selfie or this makeup, because they don't know our industry's changing. So they're trying to change with it. We're just trying to like all grasp what the change is together.
It's so funny. Yes, Denise, you're correct. Cause I came from the opposite way and I signed with an agency finally at like 33. And then they were like, you're messy. You need to button up. You're like, no one is going to like your like unfiltered video. Like they were like, get it together. And I could never get it together because it's not who I am. And so I was not a successful model. It's interesting.
What I think is wild is that they thought they knew.
Yeah.
They thought they knew where the industry was going, and they were so wrong. And now they're playing catch up because they understand now the power of social media and the power of having a voice and being different. Because I think what we don't realize is, Caralyn, you nailed it when you said, I'm just another size 14. It was like, I'm a size 14 brunette Latina. So like you're put in a complete bubble, and they're looking at these casting lineups and they're like, oh, well, they need a blonde, or they need a mixed race, or they need, size 14. They don't look at us as an individual. They look at you as who they can collect their money from. So they're sending not just you because you fit this project perfectly or because you've been dying to do it. They're sending you because you and 5 girls are brunettes. So let's see whichever one they pick. And they don't care who they pick because they're going to get their money in the end. And the only ability you have to get yourself really further than that is to just show who you are and how individual and different you are. And I think that's why we see so many girls with short haircuts. I remember dyeing my hair blonde and then being like, you're crazy. They're going to like freak out. And then I remember showing up to a Bloomingdale's job with my brown wig and then being like, no, we want the blonde. And my agent being like, what? They wanted the blonde. And we're in the bathroom washing off this brown color from the wig. And it working because they were so scared to try anything different. And when you really think about it, now you have like Stella and so many other girls who are doing these cool hairstyles, and you're like, you didn't understand it all. Like even cutting brunette hair from here to a bob was a big deal for an agent back in the day.
Highlight.
Now, do it pink if you want to, because that might be what gets you the job. Shave your head off, have bleach brows. Who cares? Just be yourself.
I think that's a great takeaway, because I think one of the hardest things for me as a model is like, I wasn't being hired and fired based off of if I was a good person, if I was a good friend, if I worked well. I was being hired and fired based off of my looks and my looks alone. And I really struggled with that because, you know, coming into it so young is like you put your self-worth in that, right? And if you're not hired, or you are fired from a job, it's not because of any of those things that you can control, really.
Right. Right. And you're looking for the next, who they pick next. And it's like, oh, she kind of looks like me. Cool. Got it. I guess there's nothing special. And that can really eat you up. That's why I think it's so important these agencies work with these girls, because a lot of the times when you start off as a model, you are on the younger side. So you are kind of vulnerable to and more sensitive to outside influence. And there's so much more to it, you know, like there's no mentorship in modeling. There's no, there's no education within like how to like save your funds, or I think there's so much that doesn't empower models. It kind of keeps you low so that they can continue to take advantage. And I think that the knowledge that we've acquired through social media and through connections in our community is what has allowed us to grow.
100%. And you're always going to be told, I mean, personally, I was cut my hair, grow my hair, dye my hair, gain
lighter,
weight,
darker, tanner.
Oh yes, I'm too tan, not tan enough. Like, I think for me, it was like once I like just turned that off, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna do what feels good for me today. And if somebody hires me, great. If it doesn't work, great, because it's always gonna be something, right?
There's always a job, girl. There's always a client, and they're always looking for someone. And it's just a matter of making sure that when you fit in with that it's the right alignment.
Absolutely.
And that you come into that room yourself, not changing yourself or trying to modify yourself to be liked. That's the hard part.
And the fact that you both, I mean, you similar spaces, but completely different ways of going about it, have found success in that by being authentically who you are, is truly, truly remarkable. I'm sure we'll get some questions, or people wondering if they're just starting out in their journeys, or maybe they're looking for a career change, or just looking to inspire, help women. Where would be a good place to start?
I would say it's never too late. I think sometimes people think that they're 27 years old and that's like their life and they're gonna have to stay exactly where they are, but you can have many different chapters. And I think it's never too late if you have the right drive to get there, is one thing that I would say.
Yeah, I mean, I think that you just got to start. I think so many times we're in our heads, and we have a million questions and we want to like find a roadmap that doesn't exist for a journey that no one else has taken, because it's your individual journey. And it's so important to just start every single day, make a stride towards whatever it is that you want. Even if it seems super silly, in a month, you'll look back and be like, wow, I did a whole lot more than I thought. And that's where I think, for instance, I'm a Gemini, so I'm a super overthinker, girl. Like, I'm always in my head. And I had to really learn that, like, when it comes to work things, just go. Just go, just start, just do it. Whatever it is, just do it. And like, find people around you that uplift you and support you, because I think that if you don't have that, whatever you want to reach is going to be impossible, just regardless. Like, it's so important to have people in your circle who cheer you on and who like champion you, and who, if they like, I remember seeing a meme about like, oh, if I saw a job opening, I would recommend someone else, or like, if I saw something that fit for you, I would let you know, and not to have haters in your circle who would like see something for you and not even push you forward for it. And that made me think about like who I have in my circle, and making sure that everyone that I am associated with would be that way, because I'm that way towards that. And so I just think you have to really just keep your energy clean, keep people around you, keep your karma clean, and work your butt off, because that's the only way you're going to get there.
Well, a sincere thank you to you both, Denise and Katie, for joining us today on this episode of Voices, and for taking the time to talk with us and get so real and honest with us and the Elomi community. So we definitely want to keep this conversation going. So Elomi fans, please share your thoughts on our success stories today and your career goals with us as well. So thank you again, and we'll see you soon.